All right, so is Rolex a bubble? People ask that a lot. And if you're Guido, you certainly think it is. That's Guido's thing. Rolex is a bubble. He's a man on a mission, and it's to convince you that Rolex is a bubble. I'm not going to answer that question today, but what I am going to do is ask, how could Rolex be a bubble? How could you make it a bubble? Let's do a thought experiment. All right, so I'm the new president of Rolex, and I'm secretly in bed with Omega, and I've been hired to destroy Rolex. Make it a bubble and pop it. That's what I've been commissioned to do. And I think there's two things you would need to do, all right? You would need to, first, overproduce the watches, and you would need to suddenly decrease demand for the watches, all right? So let's go through those. All right, so the first thing you would want to do is fill that bubble up. You would just pump so many pieces out that, now we talk about satisfying demand, you would see every single model, a couple of every single models. I can't help but think of the Yachtmaster 2. It would be like every model would be like the Yachtmaster 2, right? You would see every incarnation of it, every sub they had, every GMT. Go to any AD, there they are. All right. So there would be no situation like we have now. All right. Anything you could find, you would be able to get it. Okay. So that's number one thing I would do. I would say increase production. Tone down the two tones and the precious metal pieces, and let's just make all the subs we can. Oh, the BL&R, let's just like crank those out. Anywhere where there's demand, let's fill it. Pretty much like most watch companies that want to make money and turn a profit do, right? All right, so that's one thing I would do. Okay, the next thing I would do is I would hire Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Leonardo DiCaprio to denigrate the brand, to among social media, to turn Rolex suddenly at the height of its popularity, when everyone is satiated, happy with all these new models on the market. They've gotten them. Prices have leveled out. The gray market no longer exists anymore, or if it does exist, it pretty much is comparable to what the prices are at an AD. Right at the peak of that, I would hire these influencers to denigrate the brand, to paint it as uncool. How? I don't know. Like, for example, you know, candid videos of like Leonardo DiCaprio like turning his nose up at a Rolex or something. Okay, all right. Like these people would even participate in such nonsense. Okay, but I would also hire scientists to develop some, you know, certain chemical that when ingested, creates an aversion to the Rolex aesthetic. And of course, I would pay people to put it in the world's water supply. All right, so all right, I'm going nuts here. This is just kind of silly, but what I'm saying is that you would want to all of a sudden make the brand totally uncool. All right. And then once that took hold, pop goes the bubble, all right? All of a sudden, nobody would want these watches, even though you could get a BL&R. I mean, who would want one? My God, I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio turns his nose up at it. Remember that video of Tom Cruise chucking one out his Ferrari because word was it wasn't keeping correct time, and Brad Pitt sold all of his Rolexes and went to, I don't know, whatever, you know. This is kind of a silly video, but those are the two things you would need, okay? And you could create a bubble. Now, the question is, do we have those two things, all right? Do we have do have an overabundance of pieces for many of the watches that I like. BLNR, Pepsi, the Sub, the Sea Dweller, the Explorer 2, the all steel Sky Dweller. No. I mean, so that condition doesn't exist. Datejust, two-tone pieces, gold pieces. Yeah, you can buy those in abundance. Okay, and so I guess when you talk about a bubble, you really need to talk about what model. You can't just say, is Rolex a bubble? You got to be specific. Is the Sub a bubble? Is the GMT a bubble? And an argument could be made that a steel Datejust is more likely to act like a bubble than, say, a no-date Sub. All right, so the whole Rolex is a bubble. It's not accurate. It's too general. Okay, we got to be more specific. So I'll leave those two-tone pieces and those all gold pieces for you guys to discuss, but I'm really concentrating on these all steel professional models, right? And so, you know, the conditions don't really hold because you can't get them, right? You can't get them, and if you do find one at a gray market, it's going to be selling for well above retail, right? And condition 2, Rolex is cooler than it ever has been, in my opinion, and particularly cool are those steel sports pieces. You know, it is those two tones and those really fancy, bejeweled monstrosities that I think are worthy of derision. And they're sort of I mean, they're Rolexes, but they're sort of a separate animal than the steel professional line. So, yeah, I mean, are they cool? That's debatable, right? But I think we can all agree that a BLNR, a Pepsi, you know, these steel sports Rolexes, whether they're vintage or modern, they're pretty much the height of coolness. I mean, aesthetically, you might not like it. I mean, I've got my issues certainly with polished middle links, and honestly with the aesthetic of the ceramic. I always preferred the look of the aluminum bezel, no date aluminum bezel Sub, beautiful. The ceramic no date Sub, I don't think the bezel looks as good. It's thicker, it's shinier, it just doesn't look as good to me. But can I really deny that it's not cool? I mean, I don't like little aspects of it, but hey, like a modern no date Sub. Is there anybody out there that thinks it's not cool? I think there's some people that think, oh, you look like a tool. I think what they're doing is they're sort of they're attributing that all gold sort of blingy wankerness to say like a no date because it shares the same brand name. So look, there will be people that say Rolex is not cool and Rolex wearers are not cool, and I agree. You know, you're not cool just because you have a Rolex on, but by no means would I say that a steel sports Rolex does anything but sort of bring you up. Now I'm sort of getting into the weeds here, but that condition doesn't hold either. So anyway, thought experiment. I think if you look at it like that, you realize that, you know, the steel sports line, we don't know what the future will hold, but those conditions really have to be satisfied before it starts to even look like a bubble. And those conditions don't seem to be satisfied or being satisfied. So will it be a bubble someday? Maybe, but it just doesn't seem like it's even going that route. To say it will be a bubble seems doubtful. To say that it is a bubble in terms of the steel sports watches, that's ridiculous. It's like, you know, give me that argument that it is? What conditions are being satisfied that's making it a bubble? Is Rolex getting uncool? I don't think so. I think it's going the opposite way. It's becoming cooler. People are, I think, starting to get into Rolexes more. I think as, well, again, I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but I think that suffices, that's sufficient. There you go. All right. Here, the video was going so well and I screwed it up. All right, take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time.